Okay, I got it.
All right, and we are live. So, everybody, I am Ashley from Sex with Ashley. I am for people who do not know me, I am a blogger. I am a sexpert. I am a sex influencer. So here today we have the great Dr. Rachael, and she is going to talk to us about one of her programs that I actually signed up for and actually did 2 years ago, I think it was.
Yes.
So first, I want you to introduce yourself, Dr. Rachael, and then we will get started.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, Ashley. I'm so proud of the work that you do and the way that you keep, the world connected with sex, and I love how you infuse humor in there. I mean, some of your stuff, I'll just run across and I'll just be cracking up. So I just love it. And I think that's the cool thing about you being a sexologist and a sexpert is that there's so many different ways to do it, right? There's so many. We got the conservative ones. I think I'm probably one of those, the conservative ones. You got the ones that are butt naked, and you got the ones that kind of straddle the fence. And then you got the ones that really present great information in this funny, strategic way, which I think that, you do. I always said when I started the Dr. Rachael Institute and when I started as a sexologist, it was always about like entertaining people because sex is so entertaining in and of itself. Well, it's supposed to be that the goal has to be to keep people entertained or else, you've lost your audience because the ultimate goal is to educate them, but entertain them along the way. So I think you've captured that and encapsulated that. And it just makes me proud that you went through our program. So I'm very excited about that. And I think and I also want to say just the whole blogging piece, blogging is such a powerful thing. Written word, spoken word is powerful too, but the written word is extremely powerful. It can get us in places that the spoken word can't. And so I have always appreciated that you understand that and that you use that to your advantage and to our advantage because we get to reap the benefits. So it's an honor to have you as a graduate of the Dr. Rachael Institute. And for those of you who don't know, the Dr. Rachael Institute trains the next generation of sexologists, right? That's what we do. And we have a master sexpert program, which is more just the basics of sex. And then we have a clinical sexuality coaching certification program that trains you to coach couples and individuals with sexuality issues. So it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to see, graduates shining like this, making me so proud. So when you reached out, I was like, absolutely, name the day. So
I will say, like when I first decided I wanted to do something like the sex ed field, because it was a difficult time trying to figure out what that was. Like you said before, there is different avenues that we can take. And I think for me, I was in the beginning stages, I didn't really realize or didn't know what avenue to take. Because I get asked all the time, people inbox me and be like, oh, how did you do this? Or what was your journey? And I think a lot of the journey, and for everybody individually, is kind of figuring out trial and error. Try something that didn't work, or I didn't like that. Then try something different. I don't think you go into it in the beginning kind of knowing exactly what you want to do. Well, maybe some people do. I say for me, it was a lot of trial and error. And then so I got to the point where here, like for me, I'm a conversationalist. So I like to talk. I like to have engaging conversations. I like dialogue. I like to hear people's opinions on things. So for me, the whole blogging and the blogger part of it just fit more so than, let's say, like an educator part of it. Like you have people who just strictly are like educators, and that's cool. But for me, I think since I like to talk and engage in conversation, the whole blogger piece kind of just worked out for me. And then on top of that, I did not see a lot of Black sex bloggers. Like I see people who have blogs, but I did not see a lot of solely Black sex bloggers. So that was part of it.
Tell us the difference between someone who has a blog and someone who is actively a blogger.
Okay, so the difference for me, and this might not be the correct way, like So for example, I make money from my content. So that means, so like I do toy reviews, or I'll write articles for people. So as a blogger, all of my content is either video blog or written content. So that is basically the scope of how I make money, revenue stream. Versus someone who, in my mind, who would have a business, and the blog part is just kind of like a marketing type of tool.
Mm-hmm.
You're just using it for information versus using it as your means of income.
So tell me this, at what point did you transition from being a person who had a blog to actively becoming a blogger and realizing that there were these revenue streams that were available to you? And how popular did you have to get before those opportunities existed, or did you just make those opportunities for yourself?
Good question. So that transition happened in December of last year, actually, because so all of last year, I was still trying to figure out my way. I was doing like educational classes, right? And I was like, okay, this is cool, but I was like, this is not really the lane I wanted to do. I wanted to stay in. And then I was watching, this is so crazy, I was watching Sex in the City, right? And
The original.
yeah, the original one, like that came on HBO, the show. And I was watching the episode. Carrie is a columnist and the blogger, whatever you want to call it. And I was like, that is what I want to do. Like, it's plain as day. And I was like, okay, let's start doing that. So in December, I launched the blog. I had the website up the website has been up for 3 years.
Okay.
But in December, I launched the blog on the website. So, and then I started just writing stories, my personal sex stories. Then I started sharing like different content, and then I started doing other things. Now, I will say, prior to this, for about a year, I was already doing like video content. So I had a YouTube page, and I was doing videos for a whole year. Okay, so I will say that I just didn't start doing a blog December and
how often were you doing your videos? Were they like weekly, monthly?
In the beginning, I was doing them twice a month, so every other week.
Okay. So so you had your YouTube channel going. Yes. You saw Carrie Bradshaw and you said, you know what, that's me. I could do that, and that's what I want to do. So you added the blog space onto your website. And you started writing.
Yes.
How often were you writing an article? How often were you releasing?
So in December, January, February, I was probably doing something once a week. I don't do a blog once a week now. I kind of do them as I, feel like it. So I do try to write something once every other week, so at least 2 a month on there. But I was doing them once a week just to get traction or whatever. And it was really,
I love that. So you used consistency. You used the consistency of writing every week to kind of launch the platform, really.
Yes.
And then now you're at a space where you kind of get to pick and choose how you feel like writing.
Right. And I had someone actually inboxed me the other day, and she was like, well, she's a lifestyle blogger, and she wanted to kind of get into sex blogging. She kind of wanted to know, like, how did I transition into what sex blogging? I said, it's the same thing as a regular blogger. What you do now, you just keep doing that, but do it in the sex space. Like, for example, somebody asked me too about how do you get toy reviews. So in the beginning, when I was doing toy reviews in December, in January, I made like a post, and that I would inquire with companies. I'm like, okay, this is me, I'm blah blah, but I also had video content to show them, like, okay, I've done these videos from before. I'm interested in possibly reviewing your toy or whatever. And so that's how that worked, probably for 3 months or so. And then after that, from doing that and seeing my Instagram, people started to come to me. So I didn't have to reach out anymore. Yes. And that's kind of how that worked.
And at what point did you start charging them? What point did you say, okay, I'll do it for you, but it costs this much?
After the 90 days, because by
Nice.
the end of 90 days, what I noticed was I was getting a lot of products, or people want inbox me to review their products, and I was like, okay, Ashley, I'm spending a lot of time doing this and creating an Instagram post or creating an article about it, and I'm not getting any benefit for me other than the fact that I get to put a post on Instagram. So after about March, actually, I stopped doing them for free.
Good. That's what's up. So how did you decide how to set your fees? What made you say, okay, well, I'm going to charge this person this person that? How did you do your market research to know what was a good price? And have you changed it since you started?
So I Googled and I was like, Google is your friend. And yeah, Google and YouTube have just about everything on it you want to know. So there was this other sex blogger, and she's on YouTube, had a whole video about how to, like, what she does, how she sets her numbers. I think this was probably like a year or so old, so it wasn't that old. And then I would Google, and there was a lot of different articles around. So I kind of like did what they did, and then I kind of like tweaked it a little bit, because you're gonna get some people are going to go with it, some people are not going to go with it. So you kind of have to kind of figure out, trial and error again, what works and what doesn't work.
That is amazing. So, do you still have the same price that you charged when you first started out versus where you are now, or have you gone up?
So I changed the system a little bit. So, my price for writing articles for other publications has gone up now. Before I was doing like a flat rate. Now it's per word.
Good. That's awesome.
So I do that now. And then someone also told me, who was like a mentor, he was like, well, you don't need to be doing reviews for people who does not have an affiliate program that you can log into and see what you were making. Because what was happening before was I was doing the affiliate programs for people, but it was basically just off their word and honesty Okay, but I can't see for sure how many sales I'm getting. I have to trust you.
Got it.
So I now only work with people who have a system in place where I can log in myself and see how many clicks, how many sales, blah, blah. So I do that.
Yeah.
Now.
So for those of you who are watching, the affiliate program basically means that she can review the product, but every time someone clicks on her recommendation and buys it, she gets a piece of that. And that's golden right there, because nobody then can say, well, I'm just going to give you $1,000 to just do this. And then lo and behold, they've made 600,000 off of you, and you haven't gotten a cut of that.
Right. So that's what's changed in the last 6 months. Just, the system, learning how it works, and only working with those companies who are able to, let me see what I'm actually making versus taking their word for it.
Love it. Love it. Love it. I love what you're doing, Ashley. I mean, I swear, because if you've noticed, now I'm interviewing you, right? Like, I'm like, and then what? And then what? And I can't wait to share this with our Dr. Rachael Institute community, because I think what you've done, which has been great to see, is you've evolved, like you didn't get stuck. You said, okay, I tried this, it didn't work. I love that you said that, because what I've noticed even about my own career is that every year it's different. Yes. And every year, I'm focusing on something different. Maybe this year I'm in the health more. Maybe this year I'm in the sex more. Maybe this time it's relationships. Maybe this time it's sex toys. Right now I'm doing a lot with erectile dysfunction. So it just kind of evolves, and the perfect person is someone like yourself, who is constantly in a space to take advantage of that evolution. Yes. And to, instead of it making you so uncomfortable that you freeze, that it makes you uncomfortable enough to keep moving and evolving with it.
Because you have to be able to pivot. And I think another thing that for me was a hindrance was I was keeping my eyes on other people's papers. Like I was like, oh, well, they're doing it this way, so I have to do it this way, or they're doing that, or they're calling themselves this, so I have to be that too. And it was like I was talking to her name's Cameron. Cameron is like a sex educator, job coach. And I was inboxing her when we were talking, and I was like, I want to do this. I said, but my problem is I don't really see anybody doing this, and I see everybody doing this thing over here. And she was like, so do what you want to do. Like, don't really like mimic them, just be you. So I've learned that just by being me, and not really trying to mimic others is what the key is for me.
I love that. I love that. And you can see it all through your stuff. Like you're your own person. You got your own style. You've got your own approach to things. And I think that that's what makes people gravitate towards you. People respect and gravitate towards authenticity instead of, pretending and trying to be and maybe relaxing your hair and putting a wig on and trying to, do all that stuff people used to do to feel like they had to fit in. So no, I love it. I love what you're doing. It makes me just feel so good,
Well, thank you. I did. I know in the beginning I had someone asked me about like training programs. So I always tell people about your training programs, like always. One, because, you're Black. And then two, because like I really enjoyed going through your program. Shiny Heart's on here. I think I told her about your program at one point in time. And I know she's graduated through your program too.
Yes,
I love your program. It is very in depth. So can you explain your two programs, what they are and how they differ?
Sure. So the program you went through was our clinical sexuality coaching certification program. And that's the more comprehensive program. That's for people who really want to be in the forefront, want all of the tools necessary to help people with sex relationships, everything from coming out of the closet to spousal abuse, to sex trafficking, to just good old fashioned sex, premature ejaculation, and orgasmia, inability to orgasm. All of that stuff is in the comprehensive course. So the scaled back course, the Master Sexpert program, is probably more so, I always say when people ask the difference, it's probably more so for somebody who just wants to, be a YouTube talking head and just, give some information, right? But I always say that I think the piece that we miss when we're talking about sex is the relationship part of it. Mm-hmm. And so whether it's a one night stand, it's still a relationship, right? So I never wanted to leave out relationships. And so that's what I love about the comprehensive program is that it really kind of gives you a glimpse on, conflict resolution and really how to help couples and, yourself, because my goal, honestly, I talk, it's sex and stuff, but my goal is to see people paired up in happy situations where they have someone they can count on and trust, and then you can sexually explore and do whatever you want within that. So I'm a little biased in that space because I do come from a space of wanting people to find someone. I think that culturally speaking, nobody ever told me, get married, find somebody. That's important. Even though I had two parents in the household who were very married and had all these kids and this big house and worked their asses off, nobody ever said, you should do this, right? It was always get your lesson, go to school, don't let boys touch you, don't get pregnant. And so for me, creating a space where we can help people no matter where they are in terms of their sexuality and no matter what their sexual goals are was really, really important. So that's the comprehensive course. And the Master Sexpert course is probably about a third of the information, maybe even a fourth of the information. And it's just for you to kind of get the basics about anatomy, physiology, hormones, how things work. So two different things. And then when you become a certified clinical sexuality coach, you're also a certified master sexpert. So you have both certifications underneath your wing on those. So the outpouring of support has been amazing. People like yourself and Shani Hart making me so proud every single day. It's just been an amazing ride. And to be able to offer these opportunities, I know early on in my career, I would fight for a position, try to be, get on the radio and try to do this and this and that. And I would always show up, particularly on panels, and they were always white women. And they've created these amazing lives for themselves and, product endorsements and this and that. And, very closed off, wouldn't give you any information about how it goes down or anything. And I always said, I want my life to be the exact opposite of that. We can all eat. There's food for each and every one of us. There's space for us all to shine here in our different ways. And so that's how the Dr. Rachael Institute grew. And we're kind of in this international organization that trains sexologists around the world. And it's been kind of like my greatest work yet, besides my kids,
And I think the thing that stuck out for me, like, okay, so I have a bachelor's degree. I have a bachelor's degree in biology, and then like another one in public health. I know for me, I felt when I first wanted to do this, I felt like I had to go back to get a master's, or you had to go get a PhD. And I was like, okay, so what kind of program is there available for someone who maybe don't want to go back and get a whole loan for school? And so that's one of the things I love about your program, because it educates anybody, no matter what level they're on. You don't have to necessarily go back to an institution and get another degree. So that's what I love about it.
Right. That's right. And you know what made me so frustrated about those degrees is you get them and then you're like, okay, well, what do I do now?
Yes.
And that part always frustrated me. It's like, okay, you pay $10, $20, $60,000 for this, and then it hasn't really trained us for a trade. It hasn't really showed us how to make a living with this information, or really even how to help anybody. It's just facts. Right. So I'm glad you said that, because that was in the forefront of my mind too. It's like, look, I've always been the type, even though, mentorship programs with kids and young people, I've always been like, school isn't for every damn body. You don't have to sit for 4 years, 8 years, 10 years. It's just because you're losing out on money if you do that.
Right. Right. And then that's important, because like I was saying, everybody does not always have the resources to go back to school, and this program allows you to get educated without doing that, and that's a very, very good thing. Can you explain? So, what is a sex coach? What is that?
Yeah, so a sexuality coach is a little different than the traditional sex coach, because a sexuality coach understands that sexuality is wrapped up in so many different things, from your lifestyle, from what you're eating, from how you and your partner interact, from your past, how you were brought up to think about sex and relationships. So it really takes an approach that takes a holistic approach to sex and relationships, understanding that it comes from all these different angles, and it so much impacts our sexuality at that moment. And I always say at that moment, because if you think about it, sexuality is always evolving. Who you were having sex with when you were 16 is totally different sometimes than when you're 36. Could have been a girl, it could have been a guy, it could have been both, So sex is always evolving, because there's like 60 billion different reasons why you have sex with someone, right? You might have it today because you want it. You might have had it 3 years ago because you were hungry and needed food to survive. You might have had it six years ago because you were manipulated. Like, there's so many different reasons that help define sexuality, that being a sexuality coach means that you're versed in all of those. You understand the cultural impacts, you understand lifestyle impacts, you understand food impacts, you understand toxin impacts, you understand all of that to help coach people into having healthy sexual experiences, whatever that is, and helping them reach their goals, whatever those are.
Someone asked, so how much is the coaching program?
Yeah. So if you go to the drrachaelinstitute.com, and you have to spell Rachel right, it's Rachael, drrachaelinstitute.com, and take one of our free training programs, you get $1,000 off of tuition, and tuition then becomes $27.99. And, we have great investment programs for people who qualify. We split it into monthly payments. So the goal here isn't to, cause you financial distress. It's to help you layer on another opportunity of making money in your lives. And so people like Ashley are perfect examples. People like myself are perfect examples. Whereas, we come in this life with all these skills already. We're already trained at certain things. You want to layer your sexuality coaching onto what it is that you are already perfect at, or things that you're already really good at. You reinvent the wheel and you layer it in there and you find your niche. For Ashley, making money has become part of her blogging experience. We have some that actually just coach people. They log on to Skype and have coaching sessions. We have people who are doing workshops and seminars, people who are selling courses and launching their academies. So it just kind of depends on where you fit and what your goals are in terms of which program is great for you. Now, the scaled down program, the Master Sexpert program, is $14.99. And both of them, depending on who you are, it takes like Ashley, how long did it take for you to go through the clinical sexuality coach? You went pretty quickly, if I remember.
So I will say this. It probably took me longer because at the time I was working and I wasn't dedicated as probably I should have been. So it took me a little longer. So it was probably 6 months or so. Now, most people, it doesn't take that long because they go through it. But it took me a little longer. My mind was multiple places.
Well, but you know what? It really does depend. I find that people who are, some people will race through it in 2 months, but most people take 4 to 6 months, I would say, because they got jobs. But what I love about what you just said is back when I had a job, you don't have one anymore.
No.
That's what's up. Virtual high five hug.
So I get this question a lot. So what is the difference between a coach and a therapist, or a sex therapist and a sex coach? What's the difference?
That's a great question. So sex therapists dive deep into somebody's past, right? Whereas a coach meets you where you're at and tries to get you to a future goal. We don't stay locked in the past very much because, see, if you say you want to help people who've been molested, right? If you keep focusing on the molestation and asking them, so then what happened? And then what happened? And how you feel about what happened? You're re-traumatizing them, right?
Okay.
And those people need to be in a therapist's office because they're being re-traumatized every week. Whereas what a sex coach would be is they would acknowledge, a sexuality coach would acknowledge that it happens and help people move through that to reach their intimacy goals of feeling more comfortable in their own skin, to feel comfortable and confident when their partner touches them instead of, feeling ill at ease. So a sexuality coach has the tools available to kind of help mastermind a plan to get you where you want to be. And that can be even, so the cool thing about having a coach is you think about it. So like if you take ballet, your coach may be like, okay, I want you to go do some yoga, then come back. Oh, okay. I want you to be on this diet for a little bit and come back. I want you to go read this article. So a coach is actually kind of, it can be everything from, okay, based off of what you're telling me, you need to make an appointment to see your doctor and get it checked out down there. It can be everything from, you're eating so much processed food that, you're angry. You're hangry, so let's do this. Let's focus on intermittent fasting, or let's change our diet around. Let's get more sunshine. Let's get moving. Men who sit all day long are more prone to have erectile dysfunction, but it makes sense, right? Because they have cut off blood supply to the penis, right? So, knowing things like that helps you craft. And what we talk about in terms of medicine and sexology is individualized programs. So we're individualizing it for you because you've told me your goals and we're going to help you get there. So, yeah.
So how would I know if either program is for me? So let's say I'm new, I'm trying to figure out what route to take. I want to do sexual health or some kind of way. So how would I know if this program in particular or the Sexpert program is something I need to look into?
Well, I think, first of all, you've got to try to figure out where is the impetus coming from for you to even want to do this, right? Is it coming from here? Or is it just because you saw someone else doing it and you're like, that might be cool, because it does make a difference. Someone like yourself, Ashley, who's become very successful, this has been something you've always kind of wanted to do.
Right.
The worst students that I get are the ones who just like, why not? They don't really end up being successful. The
Right.
ones who are successful are the ones who've always kind of wanted to do it, who've maybe dabbled in the world of sex in some way, shape, or form before, whether they're writing novels or helping, or social work, or however they do it. Those
Right.
make the best students. And it's also not for somebody who doesn't have any money to invest into the process, right?
Right.
Because you know this for a fact. You had to start a website. You had to expand. You probably even expanded your education, took some courses on,
Right.
how to write a blog, read some ebooks, so investing in yourself requires an investment. And if you aren't prepared to do that time-wise, like if you just have no time and if you just have no funds, no extra money coming in, then it's really not for you because you can't make it work for you.
Right.
Now, and so I would say take it off the table. Don't do it. Now, for those of you who are interested in, like, well, $27.99, that's really steep, which to me it seems like a very affordable thing for a whole career that you can build off of it.
And especially when once you compare the prices to your program to other programs, like if you just go on Google and just look up sex coaching programs, your program is really cheap in comparison to the others. So
very much so. Very much so. And you get more. You get more with my program than any of the other ones. We do live office hours. I don't leave you hanging. You want feedback on something, you send it in. We talk about it during office hours. So it's a whole experience here at the Dr. Rachael Institute, and it's designed to be that way. So for those of you who, really kind of like, I don't know, I've never thought about it. This is really not for you. You won't make a good student, and it won't make me feel good having you there. But for people who are very passionate and really want to help people and really want to sink their teeth into some information, this is it. And for people who, just kind of want to do some YouTube videos and be a YouTube star, probably the Master Sexpert program is perfect for that, because you're not thinking you're going to be really interacting with people, coaching them, giving them a whole lot of advice. You just kind of want the information. But what it doesn't do, though, is the relationship piece. And so for those of you, too, who want to be kind of Good Morning America-ish and, work your way around radio, what you'll find is that outside of the internet, you kind of have to come with the relationship piece to get the sex in there. So the clinical sexuality coaching program actually gives you fun facts and things about couples and staying together and foreverness that I think that you can't get with the Master Sexpert program. But I always say, if money's an issue and you think you want to do this, start with the Master Sexpert program and then evolve into the clinical sexuality coaching program. There's always that too.
So you can start off as one and then add the other stuff later. Okay, cool.
Sure can. Yeah.
So Shani Hart said you can join other groups too with your certification. She loves the WASC. I'm not sure what that is, but she loves that. And certification is also good too, because people if you're going to coach somebody or you're going to call yourself an educator or whatever, people like to know. Okay, so who trained you? Where you get from? Like, did you come off Google? People would want to know that you know a little bit about something you're talking about, and you just didn't pull down your ass. They want to know that.
That's right. And that's why I teamed up with the American College of Sexology and the American Board of Sexology, because I wanted the program to be that, since we had been kind of blocked out of having access to this space, I wanted to make sure that we were able to show up and be credentialed and be like, look, I'm more of this than you are. So what you got for me now?
Right.
So that was very, very important. So I'm glad Shani mentioned that, because it opens up all of these other avenues. And Shani has just blown up in the space. I mean, and she's made it such an amazing space, because so at the end of Shani's rainbow is she has brick and mortar sex toy shops and adult novelty shops. So how brilliant is it to become an educator in this space and to be out front, giving seminars, doing workshops, and pushing people towards her products?
So because the possibilities are literally endless when you're doing like the sex ed. You do not have to. It doesn't have to be one way. It doesn't have to be all education. There's multiple avenues, multiple streams of things that you can do. That's what I love about it.
Yes. And that's what I love about what you're doing, because I think out of the majority of the students, I think that that's the piece that people haven't really tapped into, is the blogging space. Because you have to be a certain type of person to be a blogger. You have to be consistent, you got to be concise, you got to have a system. And you got to be smart and entertaining, and you got all of that. And so it's just such an honor, man.
And I think too, like for me, a couple years ago, I used to hear that, well, you really can't make money in blogger. As a blogger, there's no money in that. There's no money in being a blogger, blah, blah, blah. And then so people, I think for me, I was like kind of dismissing it, like, okay, well, maybe that's a hobby more so than letting it trying to be a career. But it can be a whole career if you make real money from
it. Did you guys just hear Ashley say when she used to have a job? Okay. That's the real American dream right there, right? Is to not have a job and to actually be able to feed yourself and feed your family off of your own energy and your own, whether you get up in the morning and you make that decision. And I love that, because that's actually what I started this for, is to give people the opportunity to do what the white ladies do. Just talk and make money.
And that's all
write and make money.
And some of them don't even have all they have is a high school diploma, and that is all they do, and they make money. So we have a question. I'm going to ask the question here. She says, do therapists re-traumatize by revisit experiences to understand the condition and bring it forward to understand the projections and behaviors of the experience contribute to? That was an interesting choice of words to describe therapy and sexuality.
I think it just depends on the therapist. There's some super fantastic therapists out there, just like physicians, and there's some really ones that suck. And I've been in sessions where they've re-traumatized people and then not given them the tools to kind of come back out of the trauma. And then, the people are walking around traumatized. You have to keep in mind that therapists, doctors, everybody gets into this type of work for a different reason. And if you are the type of person who gets into it because you want to hear people's past experiences with abuse and trauma, then you're probably constantly re-traumatizing people. So I use that as a reminder to my students and my community that we don't re-traumatize people. People have been victimized enough. That's not what space we're coming from. As a physician, I don't do it. And I cut things short when I see it going on, because kids and people who've been traumatized don't deserve that in a space where they came for help. So, yeah. And I'm not taking it back. I mean, like, if I offended you, get off the live. You know what I'm saying? I'm not that person who takes shit back. Like I said it. Yes. And I meant it. And somebody right now is in therapy being re-traumatized. And some people are in therapy getting help.
Yeah. So I have some sex questions that we're going to talk about now that we have done talking about your program. So if you want to join the Dr. Rachael Institute, it's drrachaelinstitute.com, correct?
Yes, that's correct. You can hit us on Instagram, on Facebook, but visit drrachaelinstitute.com to find out more about our program.
All right. So these are some sex questions that some people had inboxed me. So I'm going to ask you, and then you can answer that. So the first one was, what if your partner wants sex multiple times a day or during the week, and you just aren't as sexually driven? How do you keep up, or do you?
So here's the thing. We never want people having sex just because they feel like it's obligatory. But as a sexuality coach, our goal becomes to try to help maybe you understand how important it is to the other person, right? Because if you can understand how important it is and how wonderful it makes them feel and how poorly they feel when they're not getting it, then maybe you come from a different space on it. But if you're in a space where you don't enjoy sex with your person and they want it a bunch of times a week, that you giving it to them a bunch of times a week isn't going to help anything, right? So it kind of has to start from reframing your mindset about it, right? Okay. So, and that comes from direct dialogue with your partner about what is it that they need about sex 3 times a week, right? So, for instance, good conversations come like, well, I mean, when we connect sexually, I mean, the next day I feel like I can conquer the world. Like my boss doesn't get on my nerves as much. Like I feel more productive at work. It just does something for me, right? Because now that your person has heard that, now they're thinking, okay, better at work, more money in the household. Okay. Better mood, so now I can get on board. And now I actually feel more like having sex with you because I see how that benefits me directly. So I think sometimes when we're making decisions about how we want to go forward sexually with our person, it has to be about what do I get out of it? Like,
right.
You pounding away on my stuff all day, 3 times a week. What am I going to get out of it?
Right. So what if it's a case of, so what do you do if I'm not interested in having sex with you every day or 3 times a week? So is there something they can do, or they just have to like suck it up?
Well, yes and no. I think the thing that complicates relationships is that you draw a line in the sand, and we see it all the time. People get married, they have some kids, and everybody becomes settled in their ways. And one person may be like, well, dang, we have these kids. I mean, I'm too tired. I just don't feel like it.
Right.
So I think the problem with that is that you don't see the consequences related to that, right? When you choke your partner out sexually and you're not giving them any, or they feel like they're starving sexually, it opens up the door for a lot of other things to go wrong. That's the problem. Okay. Now, what do? Instead of being kind and helping with the dishes and, making your life easier, they start to nitpick and do little weird things just to get under your nerves. You're like, did this just do this on purpose? Like, did they just let the door hit me when I have all these groceries in there? Because they feel almost like, and I'll use the word castrated, but I'm not just talking about men here, but you almost feel violated. Like, do you know how many people hit me up on Facebook every day? You don't even suck this, like it just becomes this piece, right?
Right.
So you start to act out in all of these ways, not picking the kids up on time, not doing your part at home. And what's happening in the home is just a reflection of the fact that we haven't connected sexually in a way that either one of us are comfortable with. So when your partner is complaining about sex and you're not doing anything actively to fix the situation, you're sending a message loud and clear that says, I don't care about your feelings. I don't care about what works for you. This is about me. And that's where the problem starts.
Okay.
And that's, people don't cheat necessarily because they haven't had any in a long time. They cheat because they start to turn away from the relationship because they feel like you don't care. So if every time you're having sex with your person, you're just like, okay, just take it. Come on. I got a meeting, like who wants that? That's not sex. That's not connecting. That's not intimacy. So that ultimately becomes the piece that people who are in relationships have to understand. Like, well, you can take that approach if you want to. I don't really feel like it and it doesn't work for me. But let's figure out what messaging you're sending to your person. So once you realize that that's not a good way to go, now you have to figure out what you can do to kind of maybe try to enjoy it more often. Like maybe you need to be more honest about what's happening sexually that you're not comfortable with, or what's not happening that you're not comfortable with. Because, we'll have couples who've been having sex for 30 years, 25 years, 40 years, and really never even told anybody what they really like and what they really don't like. So then it becomes about strategizing to implement the changes that'll make you feel like doing it a little more. Because sex is a decision like anything else. Like you say, we wake up in the morning and we decide if we're going to be happy and have a good day. Well, you wake up in the morning and decide if you're going to get some today or not, too. It's not like sex just magically sprinkles on you and you're going to have these moments while you're at work where you're like, oh, I just want some dick right now. For most people, that doesn't happen.
Right.
So we got to go the other route with it.
So that's brings me to my other question. So what would I do or what would you tell a couple who, say a woman, she's with her partner who's a male and she's just not satisfied? So how would the question is, do you think that sex can improve over time, or do you think she should just like cut her losses, or what would you tell her in that situation?
That's a great question, because see, like sex, it evolves as you evolve, right? Like your nipples become less sensitive as time goes by. You know, when you were a kid, you used to just be able to grind on some leg or somebody and maybe have an orgasm. It changes, right? It becomes harder and more difficult. So sex can get better, it can get worse, and especially if you have a partner who's stagnant. But what can't change is if you can't stand somebody, if you don't like the way they smell or they taste, or when they touch you, you don't, oh, you just like, oh, I wish they'd stop touching me. That can't change, right? But what can change is technique and style and rhythm and what's happening. So you have to differentiate between what's bad sex and what's just, I just don't like that person. Right.
So how long do I have to wait though? So let's say we've been dating for 90 days and nothing has improved, or we try different things and it's still not where I want it to be. So how long do I wait for it to change?
Well, okay, it depends. Like, do you like the way they smell? Do you like when they touch you outside of sex? Like, do you like this person? You do. So if you like them, no, because here's the thing. Some people know more about sex than others, right? True. So if you have done all the work, right, and you've gotten a sexuality coach, you've done all these things, and this person still just doesn't do it for you. Well, let's imagine this. So it's been 90 days. Imagine 90 years with somebody who can't get you wet or can't get you hard in a way that you like. I think it's time to move on, because the thing about sex is not the most important thing in a relationship. But if it's going good, it can sprinkle all types of magic sauce and magic dust on bad situations, right? We may be broke, we may not have everything we want, but we got each other, baby. And whenever people feel like that, there's some good sex there, right? Right? It's good. It is important. So I tell people all the time, if there's no physical chemistry is a little different than just the sex is being good. If there's no physical chemistry and you feel like you've got time and options, then I would wait it out, wait for the next person, and get that person out of my life. Because when you keep people around you that you really don't want to be with like that, they take up space. And you can't really put that other person in that space, because that person is still there texting you and disrupting your life and your world. So get them out and make room for the new person. Just be single, be by yourself for a minute until the next opportunity presents itself. Yeah.
This brings us to my next question. I don't know if you watched Insecure, but on Insecure, I think it's like season 1, I think it was, the whole broken pussy thing. Broken pussy. Eva thought her pussy was broken. So is broken pussy a real thing? Is that even a thing?
I think broken pussy, I mean, I love that term. There's broken pussy and there's broken dick. It's like you abuse it so much and you just let so many things happen to it that you just look up one day and it's just not performing for you the way that you would like. So I definitely think that. And I mean, I think what we should spend more time on is teaching people, if you spend too much time with the wrong people or the wrong persons, it can really affect everything. Think about the people who got pregnant by some damn deadbeat and how much energy that sucks out of you. Or the person who fell in love with the wrong person who ended up beating them into bloody submission and they didn't graduate and all of that. So being very protective of who you let in the shrine, I think is important. And it's not about being a hoe or a slut. It's just about protecting yourself. We got to preserve ourselves. We want to be 60 and look 40. We want to be 40 and look 20. We don't want our stuff all abused and falling apart. And that's why you want to protect yourself from situations that creates broken pussy. Absolutely. Broken pussy.
That is hilarious. Another question was, does porn affect intimacy?
Yeah. Well, so I call, porn dreams, right? It's like you watch so much porn that you think that sex should be like that, right?
And it's
you
not.
think that I should be showing up in some stilettos, like every time. And so, yes, it does affect intimacy, especially if you train your brain to think that that's reality. right? Because the positions in porn are for camera angles, right? Like
Right.
you see all this so that the camera can get the image. That's not going to be the position that makes anybody feel good. So
Right.
that's what we have to remember about porn is it's fantasy and it's supposed to stay that way.
Right.
And so if you start to do more of that fantasy stuff, and then it becomes harder to deal with your partner, because when you watch porn, we all do it. If you've been a porn consumer, you watch it, and if there's no person there, you just or you know, if you're a guy, you jack off and you have your moment, right? The problem with that becomes that if you do that too much, then when you try to be with your person, it doesn't go right. You know, it's numb. You're like, I don't know what happened. You know, it feels less sensitive, everything. So it does disrupt your vision of reality when it comes to sex a little bit. So yeah, porn can become a problem, but it doesn't have to be a problem. I mean, you know, I think a healthy dose of porn can actually sprinkle magic dust onto a lot of different relationships, because, you know, porn, for most people who are comfortable with it, you watch it, you're instantly kind of turned on, and you two can take it from there, right?
Yeah. So as someone who deals with sex toys a lot, I get a lot of questions from people who say, or ask the question, will me using a toy desensitize my vagina for my partner?
Well, I mean, if you're using a toy every single day and it's, think about it like roller skating, right? You roller skate down the asphalt for 3 hours. After you finish, you still feel like you're roller skating. You still feel the vibrations through your body. So we have to remember that just vibratory sensations are numbing. They are, you know, like if you sit here and do this for an hour straight, what happens to your skin? And well, it becomes numb and it's desensitized. So absolutely, you know, if you rely too heavily on your vibrator, you need more and more to make you orgasm, right? You start with the low speed. 3 weeks later, you're on the high speed. Then you're like, well, Dan, let me do the rhythm speed. And then you're like, well, Dan, it doesn't work anymore.
Right.
It's the same with your partner. So if you're integrating toys and as a couple, you know, do like you do. Just grab one time, try something different a different time, use a toy this time, maybe no toy the next time. I think variety is the real spice of life. Getting into a habit of doing the same old thing all over the place is what creates chaos and confusion in our sex lives. But as long as you've got a little variety, you're good.
So how does that work? Because a lot of people who are single, so who doesn't have a partner, so they use vibrators or toys single, and then they're afraid that whenever they find that person, they're not going to enjoy the sex because they've been using a toy for so long.
Yeah, no. Because keep in mind that when you meet somebody new, this is the cool thing about meeting new people. This is why you have some people who go from one relationship to the next, to the next, to the next, is because there's so much adrenaline that fuels it, right? You're just so, you know, so excited about this new dick or this new pussy that you're just like that. Those extra emotions, that dopamine, the anticipation and the adrenaline helps push the sexual experience. But that's the first few times, you know. So if you get a new person, I say if you've used a vibrator to kind of get you through your single days and you meet somebody and you want to start an active sex life for them, I would start fasting from the vibrator for a little bit to get things back, you know, to make your to make your clit long for some touch, you know. As opposed to, well, I mean, I just had that. I mean, but I'll also say too, if you're all deep in the church and you want to wait till you're married and this and that, well, keep using your vibrator, because then you're satisfied and you don't have a hunger that you want this person to satisfy. So it kind of is person specific, but I always advocate that if you meet somebody new and you want to have a sexual relationship with them and you've been relying on your vibe, you know, this is a good time to kind of put the vibe up and let your clitoris or your vagina or your vulva or whatever you want to call it kind of mellow out and learn how to deal back with touch instead of strong vibrations, you know.
I totally agree with that. So Dr. Rachael, this brings us to the end of our conversation. Let people know where they can find you on social media and then the website again.
Awesome. So you can follow me on Instagram at Dr. Rachael, just spell Rachel right, Rachael. And you can head over to drrachelinstitute.com to learn more about our programs. And I've got a great YouTube channel, very informative. youtube.com/Dr. Rachael. We talk about everything from erectile dysfunction to relationships, sex, and health stuff. Even today, we were talking about depression and anxiety and some natural resources for those. So that's one thing that I really feel strongly about. Instead of popping the blue pill, we've got all these natural options and things that people can do. We've got exercises that can be done. So keep in mind that as we're aging and going through life and things are changing and the environment is changing, that there's always hope. There's always a solution out there. And, I just hope to continue to be a beacon of light to help people find those solutions. So thanks for having me, Ashley.
And thanks for agreeing to come on the little show today. I appreciate it.
Of course. So now, I'm going to brag and share this with everybody in the Dr. Rachael Institute, because I think what you're doing is so amazing.
Go right there. Share all my stuff.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ashley.
Thank you. Goodbye and have a good day, Dr. Rachael.
You too. All right. Bye-bye.